Yo, what is going on, everybody? We are back with another episode of Corporate Counterculture. And today we are talking about an infamous topic that everybody has to talk about in December, whether it's with your leaders or amongst your peers. And that is planning your prospecting calendar now. It's the end of the year, which means the start of the year needs to be already in your head, and you need to be talking at least through what you're going to do so that you can have a successful year next year and make quota, right? Am I right, Brian?
100%.
Yeah. So, what do you do when it comes to planning your calendar for prospecting? What's your first thought when you hear that and you're in December, you're looking at how much you did this year and you're looking at your goals you want to have next year? What are you doing? What are you thinking? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
First thing that comes to mind is how well did I do? Obviously, we've I don't want to, hammer that point home for the third episode in a row, but
Yep, yep.
looking at the the effectiveness of what I did and realizing what worked and what didn't work, and then from there understanding where the lulls were. Where did I drop off a little bit on my efforts, on my prospecting efforts, and then where did I pick up and what allowed me to pick up that intensity, and then kind of planning it around that. So for me, in terms of just planning the entire prospect calendar, obviously you got to work in vacations, you got to work in different leaves or holidays or different industry trends and things like that. Like for example, for us, we know that peak is Thanksgiving, Black Friday, all the way through the end of the year. And
Yeah.
so we know that really no new projects are going to be kicking off in that time frame, right? So that's your opportunity to kind of do a deep dive on all your admin stuff, which
Basically.
is obviously what we're doing here. But then you also know that there's that summer lull, right, where everybody's on vacation throughout the summer, and kids are out of school and parents are doing shorter hours potentially if they can, and so you know that maybe some of those summer months are going to be a little bit lighter, and so
True.
you can plan different touches and different efforts around that, and then also your own personal stuff too, in terms of, hey, let's work in some flexibility based on how intense my customer meetings might be at different points throughout the year. If I know I already have some startups or some pre-existing travel commitments with trade shows or team trips or something like that, any type of event already, you kind of mark that in there, and you know that those weeks are going to be difficult. And so you might have to front end, load up the front end or
Yeah.
double up on, on the trail end of that. And so all that stuff is kind of what goes through my head. Now that's a big task when you're looking at a year long span, but the more you can take off your plate ahead of time, the easier it is to kind of get through your day. And for me, it's always been time blocking and trying to plan as much as possible. Do you use that at all? Do you use these like big picture moments or big picture kind of reflections?
Yeah, I think you have to, man. It's almost mandatory, especially I mean in sales in general. You have to look at big picture because if you don't, I feel like you'll just get stuck in the day to day. Like we always talk about that, like um, revenue producing goals and revenue producing tasks instead of just getting caught in admin and things like that. You can very quickly become someone who's in sales who needs to be prospecting, and you look up and half your day has been customer service or emails, and then next thing you know, because you've helped out, now you're down to Wednesday and then Thursday and Friday, and you just haven't done anything that you should be doing, especially prospecting. So for me, um, I always look at big picture, and then like you said, the seasonality. I look at the seasonality and know when people are traveling or when it's going to be slow because those are the times I usually have to like pick it up. If it's going to be slow, I'm gonna have to make a lot more calls to even get some traction with certain prospects. So, um, yeah, dude, I think that overall, my most frequent thoughts when it comes to the big picture is hitting those numbers, like setting those micro goals as far as like what did I do this week, but then making sure I have that for every week. And that's my because I know the big picture is tied to that. So yeah, I definitely try to track my prospecting on a week to week basis.
Yeah, I tried at the beginning of this year, for example, like I
Yeah.
tried to set up like a daily target. You know what I mean? Like
Mm,
30 minutes from literally in my calendar, I have 30 minutes from 8 to 8:30, which is that like I can prospect from anywhere from my phone.
yeah. True.
If I'm coming off a late night and I'm still in bed at that point, I first thing in the morning you grab your phone, right? Even though it's not the healthiest thing to do, but you grab your phone and like, okay, I can answer emails. I can hit up, different apps or LinkedIn or whatever, and I can already just kind of populate or jot down, hey, today I'm gonna try to reach out to one person at this company. And if
True.
that's one thing that you can do is populate one more lead into your list, that at a later time, and even if it's not in that exact moment, at a later time, you kind of come back and be like, oh yeah, I remember I put this person here. Let me just reach out to them and stuff like that. So I tried doing that. I can't say that I've been super diligent about it.
Yeah.
But at least I have like a daily reminder that says, hey man, like you're supposed to be prospecting right now. Another thing that I tried to do earlier on in the year, it didn't work out this way, but like I tried to kind of plan prospecting like door to door, like calling
Like
and
going out in your
like going out,
territory.
yeah, like
Oh,
going out
okay.
into the
Okay.
territory and things like that. And like I tried kind of like mapping out certain bunches of potential places to go to. But then I got so caught up that it's like, okay, man, unless I have a whole day to do that, it wasn't as easy to just like go out for a couple hours and come right back. Especially since
No.
Florida's giant, my territory is giant. So it's like if I'm gonna go 2 hours one way, that's 2 hours back. And then, you factor in like lunch hour, nobody's around and stuff like that. So it gets a little bit weird.
Yeah.
And so what I ended up doing was, okay, I know that I'm not going to be able to do just a day of that, but if I have a call out that way, now I know, let me add in an extra hour and a half to 2 hours at the end of that call as like a blocked out window for me to just drive around and see who else is in that area. So things like that did work. I actually got a one or two leads probably this year from that type of just like straight up walking in the door with a flyer and my business card and just having a quick conversation.
Yeah.
But I haven't been super good about planning out, these like these micro goals and having at least so many trips or having so many, prospecting targets on a daily basis and touches on a daily basis. I haven't been great about that. So I know that that's something that I'm going to be going into next year,
Hmm.
kind of mapping it out and having a not just a plan, but also like a scorecard that I can, check it. Hey, did you hit this task? Did you hit that task and stuff like that? Like I work well with checklists and stuff like that. So if I can have something that kind of refreshes every morning or every week, and I can say that, I handed out these many flyers or I went to these many trade shows and I passed out these many cards and you know what I mean? All that stuff. It can be valuable. And if you don't plan for it, man, like if you don't plan for it, there's a chance, or how do I say this? If you plan for it, there's a chance you don't do it. If you don't plan for it, then you're definitely not going to do it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So even
Bro.
just the act of putting it into a plan is already a step in the right direction.
Dude, you're right, man. So I would rate myself a C plus on the planning for the week to week. The only reason I know it's important is because I don't even think I would have gotten to a C plus um, without like putting in the effort. Because like you said, if you plan for it, you might at least do it. And I think I got weeks where I really did it, and then a bunch of weeks also where I might at least do it, and I kind of halfway did it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the week to week planning is good because it at least keeps it top of mind.
Yes.
Perfect example. So I dropped my daughter off, and her volleyball training facility is probably a mile from a ton of warehouses. So sometimes they have practice 2 3 hours, or sometimes it's a tournament. So I might drive down to the nearest shopping center to get some food and stuff. Dude, I passed this warehouse that was actually a warehouse I was supposed to pass go see 2 months ago, and it was something I saw on Zoom info. It looked like a good fit, and I marked it like, okay, I'm gonna go see that in 2 weeks. Never went to it. Didn't and I didn't even know the address was that close. I just knew it was in the area because I scoped it out. And I said, "Oh, damn, bro! I didn't even
That's a
call them
bad
yet."
look.
To drive by accidentally, knowing that it was on my paper,
Yeah.
and me thinking it was further than it was. I was thinking it was probably at the end of the city
Right.
instead of closer to me, which is north city, and because it's a big city. But I'm just like, oh, I could have went while she was at practice.
Right.
You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I was like, dude, all right, I have to put that on the calendar. And this just happened. So I put it on for next week where I was like, all right, I'm going to go by. And I said, next time she has, even if she just has practice, I'm going to put something in the car where I can at least slip it through the door, see if somebody's in
Hmm.
the warehouse for sure. But I have it planned and to call next week and let them know I'm always in the area, bro. That was like, what? And I thought it was a great prospect when I had did the research and everything. Just
Hmm.
never got around to it. Now I got around to the other six that I pulled on that list and just left that one, and I have no idea why I haven't gotten to it.
Part of that too could be like even just having like an app or something like that. Like there's been certain apps.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's tough to like plan your route and stuff like that. So like
Hmm.
I understand that aspect of it. Like you don't just want to be driving around, killing time, burning gas. Like that's not my goal. Like even this week, man, I was in the car straight up 16 hours. I one day I went out and back 4 hours each way, and then the next day turned right around and went out and back in a different direction. So it wasn't even like, why did you come and go from the same place? It wasn't that. It was like I literally went north and then I went south,
Yeah.
and so like that is the perfect example of like, okay, let me hit, let me kind of give myself some extra time. Let me hit some stops on the way there. Let me hit some stops on the way back. But if you don't plan for it, the morning of is not the time for you to be like, oh man, what time is a good time for me to stop in here and stuff like that. Like it's too late. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I'll give myself a bad mark or a bad grade in that sense because there were definitely missed opportunities. You know what I mean? And it's easier to sit behind a computer and it's easier to scroll around Google Maps all day long and scroll up and down Zoom info all day long. It's way easier to do that than it is to actually get up and do it. But dude, what was the quote, man? Was it, I don't know if it was Einstein. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of my approach with basically everything. You know what I mean? Like at least plan for it. And
You got to plan
if
for
you
it.
fail, great. But if you don't plan for it, it's definitely not going to happen. So for
Yeah.
me,
True.
going into next year, that's one thing that even I had this conversation with my leader yesterday about this, and I was like, look, man, I'm going to try to do one new account per day. At
Hmm.
the end of the week, that's 5. At the end of the month, that's 20 or 25. You know
There
what I
you
mean?
go.
And so like, okay, do that over the span of a year, then that's 150 new accounts or whatever, 250 new accounts that you could potentially touch. Granted, even if you landed 150, that's only like a 55%, 60% success rate, but even still, that's way more than not planning for any. So all that stuff comes into play. And also too, like we've touched on this, like probably, I don't know what it was, probably six episodes ago or something like that. But in the sense of like the whole fanatical prospecting thing and the 90-day cycle, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
dude, that's something that's going to hit you too. So sure, you have these certain lulls, but you want to keep up the consistency because you want to keep filling the top of the funnel so that you have stuff coming out the bottom of the funnel. And
Yeah.
that's a big one too, so planning out not just the actual account prospecting, the contact prospecting, but the touch points and the cadences and things like that. That's really, really hard to do. And everybody functions a different way. I function well with checklists and reminders. I function really, really well with having, hey man, you haven't done this, like literally popping up on my computer screen.
Yeah.
That works for me. It doesn't work for everybody. Some people it just pisses them off. So I don't
Dude,
know.
I'm glad you brought up fanatical prospecting. I had looked at the book again Um, and I was like, yo, I gotta step it up, and especially in the sense of like we're lucky in the sense of selling software
Yeah.
and equipment. You can kind of go physically on site, or you can just do remote and make calls and things like that. So I think I got to lean more into that physically on site mindset,
Mm,
and at least become, at least in an area closest to me, like
yeah.
the guy that's top of mind
Yeah.
for people in some of these companies and some of these warehouses and in the logistics space. So I got to do something different. I was thinking about maybe getting in the right chamber of commerce or the right networking group. Um, but selfishly also so that I can get leads. But I got to do something a little bit more dialed in for a one to many strategy, because that whole, I mean, spray and pray, we know that doesn't work. We know that
No.
just cold calling over and over again, it it works when you get somebody on the phone, but the quantity and the volume game is just not fun, and it's just not favorable most of the time. Like, yes, you get, if you get 5 leads from 1,000 calls or 200 calls, that's favorable, but it shouldn't take 200 calls to get five five leads. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a
So
big time suck.
yeah, we're just at the space where everybody is doing the same thing and then doubling down on those things, and then now using software and automation to do it even more. So now the prospects are flooded from not just you, from every type of industry in the world. So they're escaping your call, plus the homeowner insurance, plus the refi, plus the AC guy, plus the other business equipment that wants to talk to them. So it's just too much friction in that area. So I do need to find a better strategy, and I got to figure out that one to many strategy. So
Yeah, man.
that,
I mean, I guess it depends, right? Because like even our organization has certain programs in place to kind of help that, right? But
yeah,
you still got to close that first guy before that program kind of kicks off.
yeah,
And so even that's hard. But if you look into kind of what's around your direct area, it can be a big net to cast, and
true.
even that's hard too, because if I just sit down and I search, even if I do like a chat GPT thing and I say, look, find me all the networking events, I'm gonna have a lot of like real estate and BNI stuff. Like it's a lot of like home services and like
Hmm.
networking just for the sake of networking is not right. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So we got to be targeted even in our networking strategies and things like that. We got to be very, very particular about where you put your time. So, sure, it is being, it is investing in certain new ways of prospecting, but even
hmm,
that, you got to be very particular about kind of where you commit. I think that for us, it really is difficult to convert that first one, but
yeah,
then once you're able to kind of get a few under your belt, and especially if you are able to establish a very good rapport, then you can bring people in. And that's something that I'm learning is very difficult, because I don't have that network of existing clients, existing customers that I can come back to and say, hey man, how's it going? Yeah, you still happy with the solution? Great. I need somebody that comes. I need you to help me convert somebody else by
hmm,
allowing them to come into your facility. You know what I mean? And so like I got a couple, but it's like way out there in terms of distance for me, and I'm trying to really work
wow,
on kind of building up my presence locally, like really close to me, because it's a quick in and out. You know what I mean? And so that is something that I'm learning. I'm gonna have to really do next year. It's like, okay, great. As I close them, I'm like, hey man, I can sweeten the deal if you can promise this. You know what I mean? Like, hey, we can. How does your company respond to having people tour? If you guys are open to it, then we
hmm,
can take this, or we can offer that in return or something like that. So, even getting creative in that way, but that doesn't necessarily apply to prospecting. It's just a way of like understanding where the gaps are in kind of your reach. That's what I'm looking at for myself. Like, sure, I'm doing decently well, but there's still gaps in my overall kind of territory for me.
Yeah. No, for me too, man. I think because what you're describing is something I'm dealing with too, but I've I've come to the conclusion that it is not going to change, and which is why the reason I said I have to prospect more, because this is the in this position. I've been in a couple of other companies too, but very rarely is it where you only do sales, right? But then very rarely is it that you, as a salesperson, do not continue to manage the account, even though they say you don't have to. Most of the time, you continue to manage the account. This in this particular chair that I'm in at this company, I do not manage the account afterwards. So that relationship is automatically going to be like a diminishing factor month over month, where they're not talking to me and they're talking to somebody else. So things have to go really good with the account manager, and now I have to keep up and in touch with the account manager. So
Yes.
now I realize the account I need to prospect the account manager too. I need to add him to my one to many strategy and say, "Yo, who else in this area do you know? Mind if I pop in on them? Mind if you schedule a meeting for me?" And then maybe I could go in and just do things differently. Like I was thinking, prime example, I was thinking reaching out to the AM, looking at their account base, seeing some of the customers that I potentially want as prospects, and then seeing if he could schedule a meeting for me to just kind of research, pick their brain, view their machine. That way I can kind of build relationship with them, but then also ask them if they knew anybody that would
Yes.
be interested. So
Yes.
I'm gonna try that as a one to many as well. But then also it just goes back to the sheer fact of having to prospect more, because I think about when I think about fanatical prospecting, the book always focuses on prospecting way more than proposals, and it's because you're not going to do that many proposals in
Mm-mm.
comparison to your prospecting. If I get to the point where proposals are slowing me down, then that's a different conversation. But at this rate, it's the other way around. It's like I really can just use the template to present over and over again, and then get it to the next phase where it's supposed to be hands off. From what, step 3, after a couple of meetings I should be hands off. So I only need technically my 3 meetings and a template for that frame. So I technically could stay within this framework and just, that's going to be 3 hours of a sale. Everything else is not supposed to be me. So I need way more, and this is just ideal. I need way more prospecting than proposing. So I got to figure out how to right size it and get to where, like, yo, 80% of my effort is prospecting.
Yes. And I agree with you 100% on the sense of like the one to many, going to to whoever your AM is, and then going to an existing successful customer site and saying, okay, you have now become my ideal customer profile. What did this do for you? What did the solution do for you? What were you dealing with in the past? And then you can kind of like reverse engineer your pitch that way. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? And then you can look at whether it's ChatGPT or Zoom Info or something like that, but you can look at like, hey man, this is my customer. They like it for this and this and this reason. Who else would be a good candidate? Competitors in that space or whatever. The funny thing is, like, if you're like me and you want to be able to offer, hey, come take a look, you don't want competitors going into, like, customers are never going to want competitors coming into their site. I get
yeah,
that.
for
I get
sure.
that. I get that all the time. And so you need to have two different spaces. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So I have one account that does car parts, and I have one account that does furniture. So all my furniture prospects, I'm going to take to the car parts facility, and all my car parts prospects, I'm going to take to the furniture facility,
Yeah,
because that way, you're able to do it that way. So it gets, you got to get creative for sure For sure, you got to get creative, but in the sense of, the I'm with you. The prospecting is huge, 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 man. And it's eventually you'll hit, and eventually you'll find like the efficiency. Like what I've learned too over this past year is a lot of the guys that have been around for a long time, very specific with their outreach, like very specific. Like they're not doing the wide net casting and stuff like that. Granted, they don't have as much time. They're working on bigger long lead projects and things like that. So it gets a little bit different.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, you want to be specific so you're not burning your time and you're not spinning your wheels with the wrong people. But
No,
in
for sure.
in general though, like you're never going to get away from prospecting. You never should. You're a sales guy. Like you should always be driving around, looking at potential locations, driving around, seeing what businesses are around you. You can even learn from, like, I learned from an insurance guy long time ago, probably 10 years ago, where my mom did work for this guy. And so I was just chatting with him and he's like, "Oh yeah, where do you work?" And I was like, "I work in this company over here and off of this intersection or whatever." He's like, "Yeah, I know that place. They're next to this business and they're next to that business and they're across the street from this business." And I was like, "Dude, this guy knew, being in insurance, everybody's a potential customer, right?"
Yeah.
So this guy, he knew like almost the address of every business along this street. And I was like, dude, that's, at the end of the day, that's what you want to be. Granted, he did it for whatever it was, 50 years or something. But like at the end of the day, that's what you're trying to do, so that you're aware of every change within your territory. Like that's truly mastering your territory and kind of mastering your business in a sense.
No, I like that. That's dude, I think that's why it is important to pre-plan the outreach. Like you said, they're not just chasing up every tree, barking up every tree. They're not casting a wide net. And then, like you said, the insurance guy knew everybody. I would like to be that dialed in. And a big miss that I think this year, where I realized I wasn't dialed in, is because you said something last time we spoke, and it was about you would want a certain percentage of your wins to come from new customers.
Mm,
You know what I thought? I hadn't even reached out to old customers in the area. I could
yeah.
I could have just went in Salesforce, see existing customers that we have, and then I could have called on them or asked the account manager, "Yo, do they need another machine?
Yeah.
Or could I
Yeah.
go in and ask them?" I could have gotten
Yeah.
permission to say, "Hey,
Yeah.
and can I take a crack at maybe a few of these? Or do
Right.
you have some that you think might need a new machine or another machine, and I could maybe take a swing at?" I didn't even do that. I didn't even look at my backyard. I granted because it's not attached to me, but you know, but being that dialed in would help retrain my perspective to say, nah, everybody could technically be a customer, even the customers we already have. Um, so yeah, I was thinking about that. And granted, I always want to bring in new business, but I just thought about the existing customers. If it is new business, it's just from an existing customer when we already have the business. So I got to be
Yeah.
more open to that too. I didn't think
Yeah. I
about that.
mean, for me, in my mind, that's low hanging fruit. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
there's no initial pitch. There's no kind of like laying
yeah,
a baseline or a foundation of what we can actually offer them. So it's easier. When I started at the beginning of this year, what I did was like I went into all the lost opportunities.
yeah.
And
So I
and I was just
did
like,
that. Yeah,
yeah.
true.
And so even that's
That's a good
easier
start.
to
Yeah,
have a conversation than like somebody completely new. It's like, oh, hey man, you talked to this guy in the past. I'm the new guy. You let me know if you're open to having this conversation again. It seemed like the notes that we have here, it wasn't a good fit for this and that reason. Maybe things have changed. Maybe you guys have
yeah,
improved. If you haven't gotten there yet, but you're on your way there, give me a call. Just want
yeah,
to kind of give you my information. And so even that's bro, even that is,
yeah.
planning out your year in terms of like didn't close, worth a shot. Like if you can work that into your calendar now, or work that into your daily flow now, that's huge. You know what I mean?
Because those are
I
perfect for the slow times.
Perfect. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. When you're doing all your Salesforce admin and all that stuff, that's the perfect time to just kind of go through stuff that's dead, man. I mean, there's so much information in there. And also too, you can kind of track contact excuse me, you can track contacts and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
where they went, if they left the company, you can take a name before you call them, go into Zoom info. Hey, they're not there anymore. Where did they go? Hey, you talked about this project over here. Do you have that opportunity at your new facility? You know what I mean? So there's so many different ways you can get creative, but like, the whole prospecting calendar and planning it for the whole year. I always like, this quick little snippet that says the best salespeople treat their year like a campaign, not a calendar. And so really what you're trying to do is you're trying to incrementally win more and more people over. And you have steps to do that along the way.
Yeah.
What works for me and what I'm going to plan and try to implement is going to be like a daily flow. Like most of my meetings don't occur before 9:30, 10 a.m. anyways. Some of my meetings will occur at, up until 5 p.m. or even beyond that sometimes. And so I know that morning period for me is usually that open window, the research, the emailing, the whatever,
Yep.
a lot of that planning that I can take place. So if I can take the first hour of my day and hit that 2 calls, 2 emails, whatever a day, and then kind of some weeks that I know I'm going to be traveling, I'm going to be out of pocket on vacation, whatever, then I can double up the week before, I can double up the week afterwards, and like still keep a consistent goal.
I like that. I think one thing I'm going to implement is a more generic script when I'm cold calling and emailing. Um, because of the sheer volume of people that I think are emailing and cold calling. And we know it takes like 8 contacts or touch points, some 5 or 8 to even get somebody to answer the phone at a company. I think I'm going to do deep research on industries and then just keep my, at least, unless it's a company that really stands out, I'm going to try to generalize my script a little bit more, or at least my talking points, because I could easily spend 20, 30 minutes looking at a company.
Yeah, but to see like that's exactly my issue. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? And
For
that's the
sure.
time suck, but you get lost in it. You get so
You get
lost
lost
in
in it.
trying to find the perfect company and you
Perfect
spend
company,
so much time and trying to find the
right
perfect
contact.
contact
You want to
and
show
like
them you know the company.
yeah, and then they don't care. You know what I mean? And
Exactly.
so that's not worth it. It's way more valuable for you to just get the quick no. A quick no is better than a long maybe.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna say, hey, I'm gonna call people in these type of contacts, and I'm gonna check and see if they're interested in our solution. I'm gonna qualify them. If they answer the phone, I'm gonna qualify, and then we can get into the weeds if they're interested. But yeah, that deep research on, oh, I found this person on LinkedIn, and this person was previously at this company, and I can use that as an anchor, maybe because I know somebody from the other company. Trying to do Minority Report just to send an email or call somebody. It just takes way too much time, especially when you got bots and automation just sending out 50 robo dials and
Oh
90
yeah,
calls a day. You know what I mean? So
it's yeah, the whole robo dial thing doesn't work. So here's a interesting little snippet. I was reading on LinkedIn. This was like a month ago, if not more. And the guy was saying that he was having lunch with somebody that was able to grow his company, blah blah blah, and he had like a 90% success rate on his prospecting, and he did the exact opposite of everybody else, where everybody started going trending. And we've talked about this. Everybody's trending towards AI, right? And you're
yep,
using these generic kind of like, industry specific, but it's generic. You can tell it's got the long dashes in there. It's got certain
yeah,
hashtags in there. You know what I mean? So you can tell, and I'm guilty of this. I'll hand up guilty. But this guy didn't send AI generated LinkedIn posts or emails or even phone calls. He would straight up send them a handwritten letter to the CEO or the president in like old fashioned. And that is what got him the appointment. And it
dude,
makes total sense, bro.
yeah,
You
yeah.
can't fake that. You
You
can't
can't
fake that.
fake it.
You know what I mean? And so if you can go completely against the grain and do something that's going to stand out, that is one way to do it. 100% one
Sure.
way to do it. And that's why I honestly like doing the door to door Although I'm not a door-to-door salesman, and I talk crap about door-to-door salesmen all the time. They
Yeah,
have a
yeah,
hard job. They have a hard job, but I hate it. I'm not necessarily trying to sell you on the spot as a door-to-door salesman. That's not it. But I'm trying to get a human. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like I'm trying to get a human. I'm trying to have them see me as a human and not just have. Nobody's gonna just slam the door in your face, but they will hang up the phone on your face because they're not looking at you. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
all that plays. It's a psychological game. Sales is a
yeah.
psychological game.
I like the door to door. I've had better success with the door to door, but dude, like you said, it's the driving an hour somewhere to get into a location that's not Fort Knox, that doesn't have a
Yes.
gate before you get in the parking lot, or doesn't have where
Yes.
you have to buzz in. When I can get to somebody,
Yes.
it's like magic. I'm like,
Yes.
thank you, a real person. Because my script is dialed in for that.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Bryan, such and such. I actually work with the company down the block, just
Mm-hmm.
like yours. We did this and this for them. I would love to talk to you, see if we could do that for you. Something in the frame of that. And they're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Well, I mean, if you freaking helping this HVAC company, let me at least see what he said. It don't matter what it is.
Right.
It could be teddy bears. I'm like, yo, we work with the
A
the teddy
hundred
bear
percent.
company down the street.
100%.
Maybe I could bring you some value too. Yeah, it's just a lot easier talking to somebody in person, dude. To be honest, so but it's you got to get there. It's got to be someone. It's got to be someone who is social and not awkward. They can't have the gate up. It's like it is tough now, especially with everybody working remote now.
Yes. Good luck even getting somebody to the door. How many times do you have to knock on a door that's got newspapers on it? You know what I
Dude,
mean? And it's all dark inside.
yeah, yeah. And I'm in California now too, so even when I get to a spot, a lot of the people are working remote that are management level and above, especially if they're doing, office work or anything. So if I do get to a spot, uh, internal leadership's probably not there. Anybody of that stature who could be engineer, whatever, it doesn't even have to be
Mm-hmm.
leadership. They're probably working a flex schedule or they're not there.
Mm-hmm.
If I get to a warehouse, because and it may be like this in Florida too, but in California, because of labor cost laws and all that stuff, a lot of people are temps. They don't know what the
Mm.
hell's going on. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
really hoping to get a ops guy or supervisor, manager person if I can get to somebody. So it's just way more limited. I've had success and I still have success, but it's just, you know, it's you got to get there and then they have to be there. So
Yeah, and I've had success that way, but I've also had rejections that way too. Like the first one that's coming to mind is walked in the back door. I tried the front door. I'll
yeah,
say straight up, try the front door. Um, no success there. There's literally no doorbell. There was nobody like sitting in a chair. I was like, okay, so the only solution was straight up walking through the dock door, get to
yeah,
the
yeah,
dock
yeah.
door. And I was like, hey man, just looking for the, whatever he was, the manager, DC manager, warehouse manager, I don't know. And he's like, oh, he's not in. I was like, great. What's his name? And they can't lie about that. You know what I mean? So he's not in could be just a ploy, a lie, and just say like, I'm not going to bother him with this. But if I can at least get a name, hey, what's
Yeah.
his name? I'll write down his name and then I'll go find him on LinkedIn, Zoom Info, company directory or something like that afterwards. But even that is, hey, I'm one step closer to finding out who runs the show here. You know what I mean? And now my prospecting is going to be more targeted because I'm chasing one person. So
Yeah,
that
there
helps.
you
That
go.
helps for me. That works for me, and it's worked for me in the past. So
So I forgot about that. That is the best part for me for going in person because then I got one person. So if I do go back to Zoom Info or see LinkedIn or whatever, I know none of these people are the guy.
yeah,
None of y'all know what y'all talking about.
right.
Let me try to get to this one person over and over again, and that does create a better target. So yeah, I agree with that.
100%. 100%. Yeah. I mean, I guess we're coming up on time, but I guess the moral of the story here is like, do the due diligence now, plan out your year now, try to work out a daily flow that contributes toward your year end target. Um, and then plan out everything around that to try to be as consistent as possible.
Yeah, bro. Consistency is the key, especially in sales.
100%, man. It can't be feast or famine at all aspects of the year.
Nah,
But, you
'cause
know,
there's gonna be some famine, so you gotta
You got to stick with it, bro. You got to keep that top of the funnel full.
You gotta have
Keep it
full.
full.
Yeah. Yep, for sure, dude.
That's the
Dang.
goal.
That's a good point. Hey, so y'all let us know what y'all think. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell us what you're dealing with in your pipeline. How are you getting your prospects? Is cold call still working? Do you prefer in person popping up on people like us? Do you hate door to door sales like Bryan said? Let us know. Let us know what you think. And we'll holler at y'all next time.
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Peace.